this. This episode is about a very special place to me for many reasons. It's a place that I grew up going to as a child, even through my teens. Really, for the past 34 years, I've gone there at least once a year. And it's one of my favorite places to be. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know, which, by the way, if you like these videos, please subscribe and follow along. Back to this story. I grew up visiting our cabin that my grandfather built. I even made a documentary about the cabin, featuring my grandparents, about them building the cabin, and really creating a place for their family to get together and kind of get away, take a retreat from life. And so our cabin in central Pennsylvania is just beautiful, beautiful place on a small ridge in the Appalachian Mountains. So many of my favorite life memories are from this cabin, and now one of the best days of my life, my wedding day, I got to spend at our cabin. We got married at the cabin, so the cabin is now even more so a very significant and special place. So we planned this weekend to be kind of Thanksgiving for 2019, Family Thanksgiving 2019, because it just worked out for mine and Emily's schedules when we could not fly in on the actual Thanksgiving day. So we decided early November we're gonna do Thanksgiving. We fly into the cabin. We're gonna arrive probably around 1 or 2 p.m. to meet my grandparents up there, have a fun day. The thing I love about the cabin is it's just such a peaceful place, peaceful and restful place that you can just do what you please, take a break from life. And even if that means you're outside all day with the kids, it's still a nice break to just get out into the woods, get out into the mountains. I call them mountains. My wife calls them hills, which is probably more accurate. But every season, every time of day, the cabin is just such a special, peaceful, beautiful place. And we're scheduled to fly in on Thursday. Emily and I get up at, again, 3:30 in the morning to leave for the airport. So we're flying Kansas City to Atlanta to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. 6 a.m. is our flight. And there's a little bit of snow, and it's definitely below freezing. So we know that the plane is gonna have to de-ice, but I've never experienced a plane de-icing to take too long. Probably the most miserable day I've had ever in an airport. We left at 3:30 a.m. from the apartment in Kansas City to catch our 6 a.m. flight, Kansas City to Atlanta, Atlanta to Harrisburg. Seemed okay. There was a little bit of snow. It was about 23 degrees when we left. So they had to de-ice our plane. The Delta Airlines ground crew was so slow that morning. And I get it, but we missed our connection by only 3 minutes. We were traveling until 2 a.m. this morning. So about 22 hours of traveling with my pregnant wife. I was not happy with Delta, because had they sped up by 3 minutes, we would have been in Harrisburg at 11 a.m. What happened was we missed our connection in Atlanta. We ran to our next gate, missed it as they closed the gate, and they rerouted us to Chicago and onto a United flight to Harrisburg because everything else was sold out. Ironically, Chicago is notorious for its delays, and there was a snowstorm in Chicago, go figure. So we were delayed in Chicago by 5-6 hours for our flight to Harrisburg. We finally get on, after our flight from Atlanta to Chicago was delayed. So we finally get on our flight at about 5:30 to Harrisburg, Chicago to Harrisburg, and it takes probably another 40-50 minutes to take off, which is ridiculous. Chicago is awful. Anyway, we get airborne, and it's like an hour and 14-minute flight. Essentially, there was just the East Coast storm. It was massive. And we're airborne. We're getting close to Harrisburg. The pilot says we don't have enough fuel to make more than one attempt into Harrisburg. So We're holding just west of Harrisburg in the airplane. My wife is having a lot of pain, some sort of a break in the weather, and the pilot decides to go for it, try and land, and it was insane. But ended up we could not land, so they diverted us to Pittsburgh, where we sat on the tarmac for about 2 hours, refueled, and then they decided to make another attempt at it. We finally landed in Harrisburg at about 11:40 p.m., got our bags, left Harrisburg Airport to drive to the cabin where I'm now at, and got in at 2 a.m. So yesterday was pretty much the trip from hell. But that's part of the real adventure. It really sucks sometimes. We're now at the cabin and it's just beautiful. Kansas City, Atlanta, Chicago, Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, Harrisburg. We finally get to Harrisburg at midnight. My little brother comes and picks us up. Probably the worst flight experience I've ever encountered. Back to the cabin. So we finally get in. We were expecting to have at least a half day at the cabin with my grandparents. That didn't happen that day, but the rest of the weekend was awesome. We had all the kids there, the cabin, and just that area, the central Pennsylvania area, is just beautiful and peaceful. It's such a slow pace of life. I have actually created a documentary about my grandfather, who designed and built the cabin with his sons and their close friends, and I'll give a link to that. But we've had so many wonderful memories in the cabin, as well as not so wonderful memories in the cabin. I remember when I was about 6 or 7 years old, I had the chicken pox. I think several of us had the chicken pox at the cabin, and one time I also remember I had to go to the hospital for an asthma attack while up at the cabin. Of course, you're pretty far away from hospitals, and even a town of significant size is not even close. So getting somewhere for a medical emergency is difficult. There was a Christmas that all of our extended family went up to the cabin, so there was probably 25, 26, 7, 8, 28 of us or so staying in this cabin. And it's Christmas and the snow is flying, and we end up with probably 6 to 8 inches of snow. And we happened to also have sleds, or we went and got sleds, I don't remember, but we created down one of these old forest logging roads. It was a really windy logging road, and we built up banks along it and put torches out so at night we could sled down the hill, having all the dogs chasing us down the hill as we're going crazy fast at night. Snow is still flying. We have bonfire up top, bonfire down below, and everyone's just having an amazing time. We have having hot chocolate by the fire. Just can't believe that this is kind of the Christmas of our dreams. We've had so many great memories. At Christmas time, we'll have to, the white pines up in this area, most of the evergreens up in this area are very, very sparse. We cut down 3 or 4 or 5 white pines and strap them together, and we put lights on it and ornaments and lights along the balconies, and just have an amazing fun time. And it's definitely craziness with all the kids running around, but that's what makes it fun. That's the memories that I grew up with, and I know that my children and my nephews and nieces are gonna grow up with that. I'm really grateful to my grandfather and to Bill and their children, who all built this cabin and built a legacy for their children and their grandchildren, and now their great-grandchildren to enjoy. And I created this documentary, which I hope you'll take a look at, for the purpose of honoring my grandfather and honoring the legacy that he left for all of us, his children, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren. I hope you take a look at that. Also, again, subscribe and like and comment below. Thanks for watching.